Why would one military commission two attack helicopters that are supposed to do the same job, but engineer them around completely different ideas of how a war machine should survive? That is the central mystery behind Russia's attack helicopter doctrine. On one side is the Mi-28, a rugged, armored brute built around the philosophy of toughness, field repairability, and battlefield endurance. The other is the Ka-52, a highly unconventional coaxial helicopter that looks like it was designed by engineers determined to defy every rule of conventional rotorcraft design. Same mission, two very different answers. And that contrast is not cosmetic. It goes straight to the heart of how each helicopter fights, survives, and gets repaired when the battlefield turns ugly. The Mi-28 is the more traditional machine, and in some ways the more practical one. Its conventional layout, including the tail rotor, may not look as exotic, but it reflects a design philosophy that values survivability through simplicity. The tail rotor is a known quantity. It is easier to understand, easier to maintain in the field, and easier to keep running when the aircraft is operating under the strain of a high-intensity conflict. That matters because in war, the most elegant machine is not always the most useful one. The best machine is often the one that can be fixed quickly, returned to service, and sent back into the fight. The Mi-28 also leans heavily into armor. Its cockpit is built like a protected capsule, its structure is reinforced, and the helicopter feels like it was designed to keep absorbing punishment long enough to finish the mission. This is the flying tank concept in its purest form. The idea is simple. If the helicopter cannot avoid being hit, then it must be built to survive the hit. The Ka-52 takes almost the opposite approach. Its most striking feature is the coaxial rotor system, with two counter-rotating rotors stacked one above the other. By eliminating the need for a tail rotor, the Ka-52 gains something very valuable: exceptional lift, better hovering stability, and remarkable maneuverability for a helicopter of its size. That means it can pivot, shift, and hold position in ways that make it feel almost unreal in motion. In the right conditions, it can be a very difficult aircraft to predict or target. But that power comes at a price. The coaxial system is mechanically more complex. The transmission is more demanding. The engineering tolerances are tighter, and the aircraft requires more sophistication to keep everything synchronized under stress. In peacetime, that complexity can be managed. In wartime, especially under heavy enemy fire, complexity becomes a liability. The more intricate the system, the more pieces there are to fail. But that's where the trade-off becomes so interesting. The Mi-28 represents rugged simplicity. It is the helicopter you want when repairability, damage tolerance, and operational resilience matter most. The Ka-52 represents advanced maneuver performance. It is the helicopter you want when agility, hovering control, and aerodynamic efficiency can give you an edge in a fight. One machine is built to endure the long grind of war. The other is built to win the moment before the enemy can react. Survivability also plays out differently between the two airframes. The Ka-52 is famous for its K-37-800M ejection system, one of the most unusual escape concepts in helicopter aviation. In a severe emergency, the system is meant to separate the crew from the machine, giving them a chance to survive even if the helicopter is no longer flyable. This is a radical idea in rotorcraft design, and it shows how seriously the Ka-52 treats crew escape as an engineering problem. The Mi-28 chooses a different route. Instead of ejecting the crew, It relies on armor, energy-absorbing landing gear, structural reinforcement, and crash survivability. The message is different, but just as clear. The aircraft is expected to protect the crew by surviving the impact, not by escaping it. That distinction says a lot about how each helicopter sees the battlefield. Inside the cockpit, the two aircraft also divide the workload differently. The Ka-52's side-by-side seating gives both crew members a more shared visual and tactical picture. It supports a more collaborative workflow and can make situational awareness feel more unified. The Mi-28's tandem cockpit, by contrast, creates a sharper separation between the pilot and weapons systems officer. The arrangement can help with frontal protection and attack profile, but it also produces a very different feel in how the crew works together. By 2026, though, the fight is no longer just about armor and rotor geometry. It is about data. Both helicopters have been dragged into the digital battlefield through updated sensor suites, including systems like the Arbalete radar and newer thermal targeting equipment. That matters because modern attack helicopter doctrine is increasingly about standoff engagements. The helicopter that sees farther can launch first, survive longer, and expose itself less. Sensors now do as much of the fighting as the missiles do. And those missiles matter too. Both platforms have been integrated into broader data-linked networks that allow them to coordinate with Orlan-type drones for target detection and precision strike support. That changes the helicopter from a standalone attacker into a node in a larger kill chain. The drone spots the target. The network confirms it. The helicopter fires. The battlefield becomes a connected system rather than a series of isolated duels. Even logistics have been standardized where possible, with Vickers and Chrysanthema missile systems helping streamline supply chains across both airframes, despite their mechanical differences. That kind of standardization is not glamorous, but it is extremely important. Shared weapons simplify maintenance, training, and stock management, which becomes critical when aircraft are operating under pressure and replacement time matters. So the real story here is bigger than a helicopter comparison. It is a study in two competing philosophies of war machine design. One is engineered for hard survival, the other is engineered for exceptional performance. And when both are thrown into the same battlefield, the result is not just a platform comparison. It is an argument about what survival in modern war is actually supposed to look like.